It's 10 minutes to 8 here in Cairo, and you're watching Q News. Welcome to our special coverage of the unfolding situation in Syria. Syrian state television has announced the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's regime. Stay with us as we explore the events shaping Syria's future and the international response to this pivotal moment. Syrian state television has announced the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's regime, declaring what it called the victory of the Syrian revolution. This morning, the channel also broadcast a statement read by 9 individuals titled Statement Number 1. The statement confirmed the complete takeover of the Syrian capital Damascus and the release of all detainees. It also called for the preservation of all Syrian state assets during this transitional phase. Syrian Prime Minister Mohammad Ghazi al-Jalali has stated that his government is ready to cooperate with any leadership chosen by the Syrian people. He confirmed his readiness to facilitate a smooth transition of authority while urging the preservation of state institutions. Al-Jalali reiterated that Syria belongs to all citizens and pledged to transfer all government files to the new leadership selected by the people. The Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has released a statement saying that Egypt is closely monitoring the situation in Syria and reaffirming its support for Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The statement calls on all Syrian factions to prioritize national interests, unify their goals, and initiate a comprehensive political process to achieve peace and restore Syria's regional standing. The ministry also emphasized Egypt's continued efforts in collaboration with regional and international partners to alleviate Syria's suffering, support reconstruction, and ensure the safe return of refugees, ultimately aiming for the stability the Syrian people deserve. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has confirmed that Bashar al-Assad has decided to step down and leave the country following negotiations with the opposition with instructions to transfer power peacefully. Moscow added that it did not participate in the negotiations and called on all sectors of Syrian society to reject violence and resolve disputes through peaceful political means. For further analysis on the current situation in Syria, we're joined from Cairo by the deputy editor of Al-Ahram newspaper, Ashraf Abul Hol. Thank you so much for joining us here on the special coverage of Q News. Firstly, let's start off by asking, how did the language used in the Syrian Prime Minister's speech reflect the country's political situation currently?
Certainly, the language used by the Syrian premier that is coincide with the situation, and it's not an aggressive one, but the process of transition is going to be very organized and peaceful by assigning or to avoid the Syrian state in a bad fate. If the fighting continue, or the armed rebels would interfere, that would lead to massacres in the state of Syria. Some thought that the issue of the head of the regime, but now the head of the regime is fled from Syria. But there are international and regional attempts to contain the crisis and to pursue a peaceful solution. Firstly, to avoid the bloodshed in Syria, and secondly, to instate a state of calm in Syria. And if the things was the increase of escalation would affect the Houthi.
فاللغة المستخدمة حتى الآن هي لغة هادئة يمكن أن تؤدي إلى التهدئة وليس إلى تسخين الأوضاع وتوتيرها.
So, sir, what message did the Syrian Prime Minister aim to convey to the international audience in this speech?
كلمة رئيس الوزراء تعني بوضوح أنه الدولة السورية مستعدة للبحث عن حل سلمي، حل تفاوضي، مستعدة يعني تقديم تنازلات للشعب السوري من أجل تجنيبه الحرب ومزيد من الخسائر والدمار، وبالتالي يعني هي تتماشى مع المطالبات الدولية والإقليمية بضرورة أن يكون هناك حوار بين السوريين وأن يحصل الجميع على حقوقهم وتكون هناك ديمقراطية ويسمح بعودة اللاجئين ويسمح باستعادة سوريا لدورها الإقليمي والدولي. وبالتالي يعني الرسالة التقطها الجميع بلا استثناء، ولا بد من أن يجلس الشركاء وخاصة من القوى الدولية والإقليمية التي تسببت في هذه الأزمة في البحث عن حل. واعتقد ان احدى المبادرات التي كانت مطروحه وجرى الحديث عنها في الدوحه امس هي خروج القوات الاجنبيه، كل القوات الاجنبيه بحلول نهايه العام القادم واجراء انتخابات رئاسيه وبرلمانيه، وعلى الجميع ان يلتقط هذه الفرصه لانه هناك بالفعل اجواء مهيئه لذلك. واعتقد انه الايرانيين وحزب الله باتوا اكثر ادراكا الى ان دورهم في سوريا انتهى، وكذلك روسيا منشغلة بالحرب في أوكرانيا، وتركيا يعني أعتقد أنه كان هدفها الرئيسي هو إعادة اللاجئين الموجودين لديها والعمل مع نظام سوري جديد، وهذا يمكن أن يتحقق الآن. والمهم الآن هو أن تتوقف التدخلات من الأطراف الأخرى مثل إسرائيل والولايات المتحدة وغيرها، ويخرج جميع الغرباء من سوريا.
So, sir, what are the implications of the Syrian state television declaring the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime? What does this actually mean?
عفوا لم أسمع السؤال.
I'm asking, sir, what does the implication of the Syrian state television declaring the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's regime actually mean? And what are the implications there?
يعني بالتأكيد كان من الأفضل أن يستقيل الأسد أو يخرج في انتخابات، ولكن ما دام الوضع كان قد التهب
Due to the situation was ignited aggressively,
So, sir,
وأعتقد إنه
I think
yep. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
استكمل حضرتك.
Sir, are you with us? Sir? Okay, sir, unfortunately, we've lost you there, but we're going to try to get back to you maybe later. But thank you so much for joining us. That was the Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Al-Ahram Weekly, Mr. Ashraf Abulhul. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Moving on to the Syrian Foreign Ministry that has affirmed its commitment to representing the Syrian people with integrity. In a statement, the ministry emphasized that the homeland remains paramount, describing today as the beginning of a new chapter in Syria's history. It called for unity among Syrians and the establishment of a nation governed by justice and equality, ensuring that all citizens enjoy their full rights and responsibilities. Media reports have revealed a surge in the number of Syrian civilians attempting to cross into Lebanon. This comes as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and allied factions have reportedly taken control of Damascus and other major cities. The situation has led to overcrowding at the border crossings and many seeking refuge. US President-elect Donald Trump has claimed that Russia has lost interest in Syria due to its focus on Ukraine. He called for an immediate ceasefire and negotiations to save lives in the ongoing conflict in Syria.
5 million votes, which is more than any sitting president in the history of our country. Now they have really stepped up their efforts by indicting the 45th.
Iraq's Border Guard Command has assured that its border with Syria is fully secured and does not require any additional forces. In a statement, it pledged to safeguard the border with honor and professionalism. Meanwhile, the Al-Qa'im crossing remains closed with fortified security measures, including thermal cameras in place to ensure stability. A senior Jordanian government official has expressed concern over the rapid developments in Syria, emphasizing the need to preserve the country's unity and stability. The official called for the restoration of effective state institutions to ensure regional security. Jordan reaffirmed its commitment to supporting peace initiatives and highlighted the importance of dialogue and regional cooperation in resolving ongoing crises. The Israeli Occupation Army has announced the launch of a new operation in what it calls a buffer zone near Qanatra, Syria. Reports confirm Israeli airstrikes targeting Tel Ayyub in the southwestern countryside of Syria's Middle and Qanatra region. UN Special Envoy Geir Pedersen has expressed the United Nations' readiness to support Syrians in building a stable future. He highlighted the need for transitional arrangements that ensure peace and reconciliation. Pedersen also called for prioritizing dialogue, unity, and adherence to international humanitarian law. Media reports have confirmed that Israeli airstrikes targeting two sites near the Syrian capital Damascus, including Mazar airport, and the reports further stated the two large explosions occurred in this area of Damascus, prompting a state of alert in the city. This comes as Israeli media confirm that Israel is carrying out a series of air raids on Syrian territory. Our correspondent has reported that all flights between Moscow and Damascus have been cancelled for today. Syrian state-affiliated radio station Shem FM has further confirmed that Damascus International Airport has been evacuated, with all flights now suspended. Syrian state television has confirmed the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's regime, marking a historic turning point as opposition forces seize control of Damascus and key cities.
Syrian state television has announced the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's regime, marking a pivotal moment in the nation's political and military history. The development has sparked celebrations in opposition-held territories, while former government face uncertainty and fear about the future. Prime Minister Mohammed Ghazi al-Jalali, addressing the nation before Damascus's collapse, emphasized the government's commitment to preserving Syria's sovereignty and appealed for increased support from allies. However, following the swift advance of opposition forces into the capital, al-Jalali adopted a conciliatory tone, pledging to transfer all government responsibilities to any leadership chosen by the Syrian people and expressing his readiness to cooperate with the new authorities. This dramatic shift follows weeks of intensified offensives by opposition forces. The capture of Damascus comes alongside significant territorial gains in Hama, Aleppo, and Homs. In Homs, government defenses collapsed under coordinated assaults, resulting in the city's capture. This loss severed critical supply lines, further isolating remaining government-controlled areas. The regime's fall signals a profound change in Syria's power dynamics, raising urgent questions about the nation's future. While opposition factions consolidate their control, the humanitarian crisis continues to worsen. Displacement is surging, and international organizations have voiced alarm over the escalating toll on civilians. Neighboring countries are on high alert, preparing for potential spillover effects that could destabilize the region further. As the situation evolves, calls for dialogue and negotiated peace grow louder to prevent prolonged chaos and alleviate suffering. The international community remains watchful, grappling with fears of enduring instability and its wide-reaching consequences.
White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has stated that President Joe Biden and his team are closely monitoring the extraordinary situation in Syria. Sullivan has noted ongoing communication with regional partners to stay informed about the latest developments. A Pentagon official has stated that the U.S. presence in eastern Syria is not related to the current conflict. The official urged all parties to protect civilians and seek a political resolution. He affirmed that the U.S. will take necessary measures to safeguard its forces and partners. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has stressed the importance of preserving Syria's territorial integrity, emphasizing that the Syrian people alone should determine their country's future. Speaking on the sidelines of the Doha Forum, Fidan urged all parties in Syria to act responsibly. He also highlighted Turkey's collaboration with international partners to support a transitional phase in Syria, which he described as entering a new chapter. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has expressed hope for Syria's swift return to stability. In a statement, the ministry urged all parties to take effective measures to ensure the safety of the Syrian citizens. It also reaffirmed China's commitment to providing full support to its nationals in Syria during this time of unrest. For further analysis on the current situation in Syria, we're joined from Cairo by the international relations expert Ahmed Said. Ahmed, thank you, sir, for joining us here on Q. Firstly, let's start off asking you, sir, what are the key messages you've seen in the Syrian Prime Minister's speech of today?
I think that the main message of the speech of the Syrian Premier today is just to reaffirm the importance of the preservation of maintaining the Syrian state as well as its institution. And the second message, if al-Assad's regime falling down, doesn't mean that the state is falling, but all institutions are operative, and to affirm that Syria can or is capable to overcome this in transitional and difficult phase through achieving consensus and to have a discourse that include all Syrians and to unite them through their future and to deviate the spirit of revenge. And therefore, Mr. Premier's speech reaffirmed that the Syrian people are united and solidarity among the Syrians and to maintain the institutions such as the military, economic institutions, etc. that reflect what happened in Syria, such as the swift change during the past 10 days without bloodshed that reflect the eagerness of the Syrians to overcome this phase, and also reflect that the Syrian state as a state country is a big one and capable to overcome this such an dangerous phase.
Yes. So, sir, what about the tone of the speech itself? What is the significance of the tone? We spoke about this earlier on Q, about the idea of how he delivered the speech. Can you tell us what you think of this?
The tone of the Mr. Premier's speech affirmed that the Syrian Premier is as quoting that he works for the interests of Syria, and it's an interest to deliver Syria to the new leadership and to avoid the process of vacuum of the power that reflects that they are in a very important institutions and individuals that are very eager to have and a very important role in the upcoming transitional period that Syria is going through. And also his speech is going in line with several opposition leaders, such as Ahmed al-Golani, as quoted by saying that they respecting the Mr. Premier and they will participate or to be the observing all the institutions. That reflects a real desire of a peaceful and smooth transition without any hinders and shocks in light of this upcoming phase and the great challenges before Syria. There are economic challenges, political challenges, that features the political consensus and the form of the future political form, and also security challenges in building the institutional such as the military and protecting the Syrian borders and support the police to do law enforcement. And also there are some life challenges lived by the Syrian that require often a clear and a serious roadmap, and also the issue of returning the refugees from outside and reconstruction that require from all the Syrians and to deviate disagreements and to overcome this phase. It is a speech of responsibility, reflected the new spirit towards cooperation, not to revenge, just as some wish.
Okay, so sir, what about the announcement of President Bashar al-Assad's regime collapsing? How does this impact the Syrian opposition groups?
The announcement in the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime came as a swift one in a very short term for a specific consideration, the deterioration of the support of foreign powers such as Iran, and there was an eagerness from the Syrian military to withdraw from big cities such as Aleppo, Suaida, Halab, and Homs, and for stopping the bloodshed. And also that would be benefited by the institutions in Syria, and the flee of Bashar al-Assad contributed to avoid more shocks and traumas that may lead to casualties, more casualties, and an easy intervention of the opposition, not having traditional conflicts and battles, even though several people, in light of the swift fall of the regime, there was the swift advancement of the opposition and a swift withdrawal of the security forces of Syria. But I think that this represents a great importance that managed to avoid a very difficult phase, avoiding the bloodshed in the Syrian street. But there is a desire of the Syrian to overcome and fold this page and start to a new page to be in a comprehensive, full of comprehension, inclusion, despite the diversity ideologically and culturally, and the great celebration in the streets of Syria and Homs, in al-Assad Square, in al-Amawiyin Avenue, and others, reflected the great joy of the Syrian people and their desire to move forward into a future, a better future, and fold the old pages. And this features were in a very, that has a great impact of the swift transition in the power, and also the discourse of the opposition leaders that
Yes.
convey in a very assured message to the Syrian people.
I apologize, sir, but I have to cut you off there because we're out of time. I'm so sorry, sir. But thank you so much. That was the international relations expert, Ahmed Saeed Ahmed. Thank you so much for your insights, and thank you for joining us here on Q. This brings us to the end of our special coverage for today. Remember to stay updated by following Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Q News EGY for the latest developments.